Hi, everyone. I'm Katarina, ENGin founder, and I'm just going to wait a minute or so before kicking off the event, just for any latecomers. While we're waiting, if anyone would like to introduce themselves, maybe where you're dialing in from, that would be great. Maybe how long you've been with ENGin, if you want to share. Always, always great to see where people are coming from when we run these events. Right, so I'm sure we'll have a few more people joining in, but do want to be respectful of your time, so I will go ahead and get started. So thank you again for joining us today. This is a virtual panel of ENGin volunteers from across the United States, and our moderator today also is an ENGin volunteer and chapter leader in DC. Like I said, I'm Katarina. I'm the founder of ENGin, and I'm actually also in the DC area, in the Maryland suburbs to be specific. Really excited to be here today and to listen to stories from our volunteers. Really hoping that today is an opportunity for all of you to engage with the wider ENGin community, to hear how our program has impacted volunteers' lives, and ask any questions. If you are also a current volunteer with us, just want to thank you for all that you do on behalf of the ENGin program. We are so grateful for each and every volunteer. They're really the heart and soul of ENGin. I do encourage you to use the chat in the Zoom meeting all throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, if you just want to comment and share your experience, if something that the speakers are saying resonates with you, the chat is a great tool for that. You can use it all throughout. Please, however, do stay on mute while we're having the panel discussion, just to make sure there's no background noise and that everyone can hear properly. One more admin note. We are recording today's meeting to make it available for people who are not able to make it live. So without further ado, I would like to pass it over to our moderator, Andres Lopez. So in addition to being a longtime volunteer with ENGin, Andres works as a management consultant in Washington, D.C., and also runs the local ENGin chapter here. And I had the pleasure of meeting him in person not long ago. I'm very excited that he has agreed to moderate this panel today. Over to you, Andres.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Katarina. First of all, it's very humbling actually to be here in a position where I can work with volunteers, and I think Katarina was absolutely 110% correct when she said that the volunteers, I think, are the people who really are the heart and soul of ENGin as an organization. I'm a volunteer, of course, and what motivated me to get into the volunteer space, at least with regard to this particular um, at least with regard to this particular organization, was that I, to be very honest, I wanted a way to actually play a role, however small, in what I considered to be the major, foreign policy conflict of our time. Um, and I felt that just reaching out in a very humane capacity, with another individual who was from another part of the world. First of all, those kinds of interactions have never been anything but positive for me. You can always learn something. And second of all, I think it was I was doing my bit to actually contribute to, again, a situation that I thought was very tough for the world to get through, but I felt like I was doing my bit to actually help out. So I am again Andres Lopez. Originally, I'm from Texas, the Southwest, which isn't so common for folks out here in the Beltway. I'm now, of course, situated in Washington, D.C. I'm really loving the city. I have spent some time in Massachusetts, where I went to college, and then New York City after thereafter. for my first job out of college, and that was great too. So now I'm looking to sort of expand my horizons here in DC, where I think I've been headed the entire time. And I think as everyone knows, Washington is a very it also is a very international city. It has an international feel. So I think that participating in ENGin here, it particularly is evocative because it 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 people are internationally minded and they are interested in learning about my ENGin participation. Um, Now, I I again floored to be here, grateful to be here as a moderator. I'm pretty sure that there are quite a few people out there who are willing and able to talk, and we have some great volunteers here as part of our panel. I'm going to try to see if I can call upon one of you all to also share a little bit about, your name, where you're from, what your occupation is, and how you got involved with ENGin. So first on my list would be Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann Perlmutter. I'm from Hudson, Ohio, and I'm a retired nurse. So in 2022, when President Zelensky came to our country to speak to Congress, I listened to that address and I was really moved by the fact that this very young man was taking on the mantle of trying to come up against Mother Russia, as I understand it to be now. And so it just so happened that about 5 months later, I was looking through a magazine and I saw a little blurb about an organization called Volunteer Match. And I decided it was during COVID and I just, signed up for it. About 3 months later, I got an email from them and one of the suggestions was ENGin. So I went ahead and, applied and that kind of thing, and the rest is history. So my first meeting with my first buddy was in January of 2023. And since that time, I've taken on two more young women. And it just so happens all three of them are in their 30s. They're all married. Two of them live in Ukraine, one in Dnipro and one in Kyiv. One fled with her husband when the bombing happened in Kyiv and lives in Minneapolis. And so it's been a very, very, satisfying experience. We can talk more about how satisfying after everyone else speaks. But I think that the other thing that's interesting is that about 6 months ago, I suggested that maybe we did a Zoom call together. So they've now become friends and are in touch by text. And we meet when we can, the four of us to touch base. So that's my story.
Wonderful to hear from you, Anne. As always, I'm just, it's one of those things where when you meet an initial volunteer, you just want to keep asking them questions. But, it's wonderful to hear and how you became involved and so forth. And I also agree with you with regard to President Zelensky. He can be quite inspiring. Um, Next on my list, if you would also relay just your introductory info to the extent that you would like to, sir, Bill.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all, and thank you all for your participation in ENGin, and hopefully you're finding it as good as experience as I am. I am located in the San Francisco Bay Area, the East Bay, and Walnut Creek specifically for those that know the area. I am retired 4 months into retirement, and just kind of serendipitously, I saw some advertisement on ENGin. I was thinking it might have been from another volunteer company nonprofit that I participate in. But anyway, I'm of the mindset in retirement of saying, oh, I want to do something completely different than what I've done. And this sounds really interesting. And you can sometimes start talking yourself and say, well, why would I, why would it's so different? Why do I want to do it? And I said, I need to try. And it's been a wonderful experience. I'm fortunate to matching, and maybe this is a common thing with ENGin, but there are just wonderful people out there that are just, in my case, just very easy to talk to. I know a lot of people said, oh, they're nervous, and oh, what should you cover in the first session and the second session? And it's just kind of go with the flow and just kind of have an introduction. And where else, can you meet people from the other side of the world in Ukraine, and you get matched up? So it's just a wonderful program, and just makes it so easy to engage with someone. And I have my weekly call on Thursday, so I just met with her. I had asked her, what do you feel about ENGin? She said she's very grateful the program. Just like we've said, it just provides a vehicle to have this wonderful discussion, meet some people, and learn about Ukraine. I've learned a lot about the culture, about the activities that my buddy does. And I asked her what she really likes out of it, and she said just the opportunity that every week she gets to speak with a native English speaker, that she wouldn't have that chance otherwise. So kind of both sides are just, really enjoy this program. So I thank Katerina and everyone else that makes this possible. So thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Bill. I think there was an observation that, ENGin is really one of a kind in terms of just sort of catalyzing these one-on-one relationships that you really can't get anywhere else. So I think I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one, Bill. Thanks so much. And next up, if you would, I believe it's Jonathan. If you could give us an introduction and maybe how you came into working with volunteering with us all at ENGin.
So my name is Jonathan Issel. I came to ENGin about I've been with ENGin for about 1.5 years. I got referred by my mom. She said to me, "Oh, yeah, do you want to try out having some buddies to be able to talk to?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds really cool. I've never really talked to a person across the country." And I just took that opportunity to just uh, have a new experience. So in total, I've had like 3 buddies. Um, 2 of them have graduated from the program uh, because their English skills were uh, well, let's say they graduated in terms of like skill. And so I'm down to my one buddy. His name is Leonid. Leonid, he lives in Kyiv. Um and then a reason why he came to he wanted to have a buddy and be able to speak with me is he wanted to improve his English skills by so he could get a job, and he did, and I'm happy for him, and yeah, and his English skills have improved majorly, and just over the last year, and I'm happy for him.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I think that you do a great job of highlighting one aspect. I think the strength of one of the ENGin's many strengths, which is that I think some of the younger folks and Gen Zers in particular can also participate in the program, and I think that that's a wonderful thing that you get to that you get to help change lives, and your life is very much toward the beginning of its own. So that's very inspiring, sir. Thank you. And also, I think last but certainly not least, I think we have Brigitte, and I think that she's somehow related to Jonathan.
Yes, my name is Brigitte Issel. I'm Jonathan's mother, and I recruited Jonathan as well as my teenage daughter. So unfortunately could not be here today, but Jonathan and Elizabeth have volunteered for the last year for ENGin. My story with my motivation for volunteering actually goes back 43 years to when I was a sophomore in college through Pepperdine in Heidelberg, Germany. And we had some very important programs. The wall was up between East and West Germany. And so we went to Berlin, had a week-long program learning about the East-West relations. And then the next semester, when our German was much better, we traveled throughout East Germany, not just Berlin, but Leipzig, Weimar, and Dresden, and met with representatives from the Communist Party, the Youth Party, and lots of citizens. And I was simply horrified, being a small town girl from California, learning about a prison, basically, with all these people being kept behind a wall with barbed wire, soldiers with guns, the armed soldiers with their German Shepherd dogs, all the graves, sites by the river where people tried to escape by swimming. And it changed my entire worldview. At 19, I was impacted forever through this experience. Fast forward, but rewinding 35 years from now, and some Ukrainians, I was in the Sacramento region on the news, saw the big wave of Ukrainians before the dissolution of the Soviet Union. They were arriving on special visas for religious persecution reasons. And I called up the news station, said, "How may I help?" And they referred me to the person at a church who was in charge of the program. She just gave me the address to where all the Ukrainians were settling in apartments. I showed up, knocked on doors, volunteered to teach English, help people integrate into the community. Then, when the full-scale invasion started, my 3 teenagers and I were watching the news horrified, and I explained the context to them, how it was such a major event for the Soviet Union to dissolve, and how Ukraine had built itself up tremendously, leader in the IT industry, one of the highest educated populaces in the world. And so we watched, and we're a family of action. We need to do something constructive. So we wrote letters to our president, to our senators, and made donations, but that was not enough. We had to get involved more. So we made signs and looked and found local rallies, and even in the rain went out and rallied for Ukraine. And then I wanted something more long-term and on a daily basis for us to do. So I researched and found an NGO for children in Ukraine and contacted them, volunteered any and all of my skills, and they set me up teaching English, leading English speaking sessions for their staff as well as their teenage clients. And then after that semester, that was 4 days a week, I felt like it'd be withdrawal symptoms from one of the most rewarding experiences in my life, and my children's life, because I involved them and their classmates in the program. So I did more research and I discovered ENGin, and I thought, this is just perfect. And so I signed up, and also some of our Ukrainian students from the previous program spoke highly of ENGin. So based on my research and their recommendations, I signed up and then recommended it to my teenagers who also signed up. I have worked with, I've been for like 19 months now, volunteering for ENGin, and it's very, very gratifying. I have had a total of 8 students. 3 came in the regular program. They were all adults, or are all adults, and working in a variety of professions, from IT to customer service, to one is an English tutor for Ukrainians, to the ENGin Teach program, where I was assigned 3 teachers, individual one-on-one, and truly enjoyed that experience. And 2 of the teachers invited me to guest teach their classes virtually. And that's been a wonderful experience. And then the ENGin Gov program, where I was assigned 2 civil servants from Ukraine, both of them attorneys. I have a background in law. I have a law degree amongst some other degrees. So we have really hit it off. And I can honestly say that all the students that I have met with, I've enjoyed. I know some people ask the question, who's been your favorite? There is no favorite. I like diversity and variety, and I find it very stimulating. And it's just been such a wonderful connection. I cannot stop the war, I always say, but I can on a daily basis take a concrete step and make a constructive difference in the lives of Ukrainians, teach them valuable skills so they can communicate with internationally with people as English as a common language. And I can improve their morale, show them someone cares, a real person, across in the United States, no matter what media they may read on a certain day about how the wave of public opinion is going. I'm their buddy, and I meet with them on a weekly basis, and we do all kinds of wonderful activities. I'm sure you'll ask questions later about that, so I'll go ahead and stop now. But it's such an integral part of my life. I would just say keep me signed up forever.
Wonderful to hear, Brigitte. Wonderful, wonderful answer. In fact, I think that you've done an excellent job of actually really fleshing out your motivations for working with your student, and I feel similarly on so many counts. But enough from me. I do want to see if we can direct it back to you all again, and perhaps query you with some deeper questions with regard to your own ENGin experiences. I think I can start out with perhaps, let me see here. What was perhaps the moment you recognized a bond or a connection with your student? For example, did you have any shared hobbies, or did you share any familiar groups? Would anybody care to ask that question? Answer that question, I'm sorry. The moment you figured out that you had a connection with your buddy.
I think I'll go ahead
Bill.
and say that I think well, we hit it off right away, but then we about a month into it or so, it's kind of okay. What's your mobile number? And then we start texting. So I was looking at outside of the members that I live with, I speak to Katya the most. And so every couple days, few days, I'll get a text from her. And because what we also do is, and it's part of our activities, is we share what we're doing, and we both love nature. So she loves fishing, so she'll send me pictures of the fish she's caught, where she gets up at 3:30 in the morning. She gets up 3:30 in the morning and to watch the sunrise. She lives in Cherkasy, along the Dnipro River, and she will get up and go out fishing or subboarding, as they call it, on the water. So I think that, then it's kind of, okay, this isn't just the program, this is a friendship. As others have said too, you become very, very good friends with this person because of the.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Bill. Next question. What are some different ways that you've worked with your student to help them understand your country's culture? So if we're talking about the United States, do you have perhaps any interesting things that you've shared about American culture, or perhaps there were some misconceptions that you helped clarify on their behalf? Does anybody have any experiences with regard to that?
Well, I always lead a variety of activities for our sessions. I also have a background in teaching, so I utilize many different resources. But
Wonderful.
But always towards the end of every session, I always ask, do you have any questions for me about anything, the English language, American culture? I would be happy to answer them. And so, and then they think about that over the week too. And so I have lived in many different places, moved over 60 times in my life, and a majority of that in the United States. And I have several degrees. I've worked in many different professions, and I have many friends. And so because of this, I can draw from that base of experience and knowledge about the United States. Oh, and history happens to be my favorite subject. So I can give a very detailed, not just a textbook type of answer, but also based in practical everyday facts. I can distinguish, I do distinguish for them between what is proper grammar if they were going to be interviewing for a job with an international company, to academic, as far as if they were going to be attending boarding school or university over here, to common everyday vernacular. So yes, you would write this, but I want you to be able to understand what Americans are saying. So let me explain to you. So I have many activities that I do on a structured basis with buddies and with groups of Ukrainians for idioms, common everyday expressions, because they are sprinkled throughout our language and used on an everyday basis. And if somebody is to hear them literally, they might not understand and miss the context of what is being described. So anyway, I make sure that I present and answer all these types of questions.
Wonderful, Brigitte.
I'd like to add one thing too, if I could. I have found that that idioms are a really fun and interesting way to talk about a lot of things that are going on. And oftentimes, if we're talking about something difficult, I'll say, have you ever heard the idiom? And she'll say yes or no, and we'll talk about it from that standpoint, and it kind of diffuses the anxiety or the sadness that perhaps the conversation that we're having about, since the two women that I speak to are from Dnipro and Kyiv, and they've been recently bombed, and so that's been very, very scary for them. I also think that my experience has been that they don't really want to talk about politics very much. And when we first started, I asked them if they could recommend a book or an article or something about their city. And they did. And I began reading about both of those cities and the history and so on. And then I sent them something about Ohio and about, the United States and so forth. And so we sort of created a grounding there where we kind of understand where we're from. But I would say that my experience with each of the women that I talk to on a regular basis is that it's an hour in which they can express themselves in a way that they can't really or don't really want to express themselves to other people, their colleagues or their parents, for instance, because oftentimes their parents are as distressed as they are. And so oftentimes they are the strong ones on behalf of their parents. So, or they have issues, they don't agree with their parents, or, their parents live in Russia or something. So I have found that to be really interesting, an evolution that they'll oftentimes say to me, I'm telling you something that I wouldn't tell my colleague or my parent because it's just too frustrating for me. So that's been an interesting experience. I'd be interested in if anybody else has had an experience or experiences like that, because it's been a very bonding experience. And sometimes I feel like I'm kind of playing the role of their mother. Their kids they're about the age of my children. And sometimes they'll say, well, what do your daughters do when this happens, or that kind of thing. So that's been interesting.
Wonderful, and that's a great contribution. Leads me right into my next question for the group. Again, feel free to chime in if you need to, or if you want to. What are some interesting things that you've learned about Ukraine through the eyes of your student? Anybody care to contribute? Brigitte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Resilience. I always tell my buddies when one of them asked what that word meant, and I pulled up a picture on my screen and shared it of Ukraine and said, Ukraine and Ukrainians, that is what should show on every online dictionary and encyclopedia the symbol for Ukraine, what the definition of resilience. It's just tremendous. There's not a whining bone in the body of Ukrainians. They do not view themselves as victims. They view themselves as warriors who fight to maintain their sovereignty, their independence, their culture. And I see this in not just in the news and not just in the big picture. I see this in my everyday interactions with Ukrainians. They come to sessions, they're on time, they're organized, they're intelligent, and they're also down to earth and sensitive and have a very rich spirit and kind. And it's just amazing, such a rich and varied group of characteristics all rolled up into an individual. They love their children. If you look at most countries, when there's a war, they send off their children. They're 18-year-olds, they're young adults. And the older people stay in the smoke-filled legislative rooms and make policy decisions and send more of their own children and their colleagues' children off to war to come back and or not. And I find it just beautiful that the Ukrainian society has capped it from above 25 going off. Fathers, grandfathers will fight in place of their children who they view as the future of Ukraine, who they want to survive so that they can carry on Ukraine and the culture. And I just find this incredible and amazing. And when I meet with adult Ukrainians, I see that their child has been inside themselves has been nurtured. They were cherished as a child in Ukraine. And so they have this rich sense of humor and this playfulness that I don't think they would have if they were brought up in a culture that focused more on adults. So I just really love seeing the spectrum of how children are cherished, and then they play that forward when they're adults and they do the same thing. But I just think it's a beautiful culture. And like I said, I love it being an everyday experience for me to connect with. It's changed my whole life. Like I said, my worldview has changed 43 years ago. But for me to be able to be part of this experience with Ukrainians, I feel like my life would be so bland without it. And so I'm thrilled to be part of this unique experience and opportunity.
Wonderful. I know that I'm the moderator, but I think I can at least volunteer at least one answer um, um, with regard to this particular question about things that I've learned about Ukraine. Um, and this sort of dovetails also with what would be my response to my an earlier question that we were queried about kind of conveying American culture. One thing that with that I currently tutor I work with two um, language learners from Ukraine, one from Dnipro and the other from Kharkiv, and one of the gentlemen has actually gone off to fight. So we're only in intermittent communication, but the other gentleman who's located in Kharkiv. He has we actually have bonded over sports, and he's lately become a major fan of American football. And I know what is referred to as football in Europe, but soccer pretty well. And so what I've learned about Ukrainians is that when they're in the process of learning American football, which can be very tedious at first because it is a game of considerable complexity, they do tend to like it after they learn about the rules, and sometimes they use American football as a means to make American culture relatable to themselves, and this would work toward exactly what Brigitte was referring to. Ukrainians, I think, are themselves, at least our volunteers, at least the individuals who are working with our volunteers, and I think that they're a pretty representative sample of the country as a whole. But they are certainly hardworking, intelligent, and they do not view themselves, again, I do see that they do not tend to view themselves as victims, but instead as warriors. And so I found with my working with my students, at least two of them, that American football, in as much as it actually does promote a mentality of uh, of uh, of being a happy warrior, of being a constructive warrior, of being an athlete, it appeals very much to our Ukrainian brethren. So I've learned about Ukraine quite a few things that in terms of their national values that actually would make them great American football fans. So I'm glad to be able to teach using, of course, sports and other aspects of U.S. culture. It's very humbling, and of course, it's very enriching for me. And one more question for the group, I believe I have. Um, and of course, anyone's open. Should feel free to contribute an answer. Um, how has volunteering with ENGin changed your life outside of English education? What about the program have you found to be beneficial? Anybody care to to contribute an answer to that? How has volunteering with
I
ENGin changed your life?
I think I'll answer this. So it's been tremendous for me, a new experience for me. Um, Being able to meet new people, especially uh people that's not from the country that we're in, and it's very heartwarming to see that these Ukrainians are fighting, especially in this war, and I'm trying to support the best I can. And my buddy, Leonid, he he's got uh well he loves boxing, so he so he's been learning to do that for a long time, and I'm happy for him. It's in terms of like uh defense, it's a defense mechanism, and uh the defense mechanism, and be able to like do what he loves. And I shared I shared what I like too, since he shared his sport, I shared mine, and he which is golf. I golf like almost 4 days a week. Um and he said, "Oh, I would love to I would love to also like share your interest in this sport." And I said, "Of course, yeah." And we've been uh like reading on Kindle for starting like a beginner's guide for golf, and he really likes it. Um, and I invited him. I invited him to whenever he like does like want to come over from Ukraine to try to visit. Um, I would like to like have a game of golf with him, and I think that would be a great experience.
I also wanted to add something as far as what I've gained.
Absolutely.
Yeah, from the program. This is something that I think is really important for volunteers of any age to look at. A volunteer program can help develop your and extend and expand your professional skills, and you can and your career growth. So I have gained tremendous online teaching skills through this program. I develop Quizlet slides that I use with buddies and with groups of students. I develop Jeopardy games and use those, Kahoot games, going over everything from Ukrainian culture to language. And it's really nice for Ukrainians to be able to share about their culture and with us and practice their English skills. And so I try to incorporate that in a lot of the activities. And then I also get the privilege of learning about Ukrainian culture, history, and various facts. Also dialogues. I develop dialogues And ChatGPT is a wonderful tool for that. I can put in just right in real time when I'm meeting with Ukrainians. I can put their names, their first names into the chat, and maybe a PDF of an article if they're from a certain profession, and I can have ChatGPT develop on the spot articles. I mean, dialogues that we have together. Also, I'm a big fan of Kindle English language learner books. And that's what Jonathan has been using a golf book. Well, I've stocked our library with lots of different English language learning books that we can share our screen. And so that, yes, I enjoy very much so developing curriculum, but this is also a powerhouse of ready-made supplies by other professionals that I can draw on and share with Ukrainians, and they love it. So I can honestly say that it's developed my online teaching skills tremendously.
I'd like to say something too, if I could.
Absolutely, Ann.
What I found that has been fun is that every time any of us go on a trip, any kind of excursion, we take pictures and send them to each other and have a little dialogue about what's going on. And that's really been a lot of fun. And it's taken me to many places in Ukraine, to Valencia, to lots of places where they've gone on vacation. And that's been really fun. The young woman who lives in Minneapolis with her husband, is actually coming here in about a month to spend the weekend with us. And Northeastern Ohio has a very large population of Ukrainians. And so I'm in the process of setting up some different kinds of networking that she can do, that they both can do, and hopefully have some really fun times with their fellow Ukrainians and, you know, be able to really enjoy the culture. I really like the way that ENGin makes it easy for you to reach out into the community and express what ENGin's mission is. Whether it's a flyer that you can put in the library, or you know, different areas where you can you know, direct someone to on their website. I think that they do a really good job. That's made it really easy for me to be an ambassador for ENGin in my little area of the world.
Wonderful, and thank you for all this feedback. I think we have time for maybe one more question. I think this would be filtered from the audience, from the chat, and luckily, I think you all have given us such good answers here that you've answered certain questions that were prepared, I think, unawares. So I'm trying to choose a question that would kind of elicit information that you haven't already been so helpful to to volunteer. But I think this one would be particularly meaningful. Do you think that the bond that you have with your ENGin student will inspire you to do more for Ukraine, or connect more with people from outside the United States, from different cultures? Again, do you think that the bond that you have with your ENGin student will inspire you to do more for Ukraine, or perhaps link up with individuals from outside your culture?
Definitely. When my students reach their 1 year mark, when they graduate from the ENGin program, I always invite them to join group sessions that I lead for Ukrainians based on age, from up till 25, a certain group, and then 25 after, because I don't want them to feel like, okay, that's it, goodbye. And so, yes, I think that when you develop a personal bond, or at least when I do with an individual, I want to keep these people in my life forever, and I want them to feel the reciprocity that they have the ability to stay connected as much as they want, but not in an official program. So if they want to drop by into sessions, they can feel that support and continue developing their skills. And they're also free to contact me too, I always tell them. So I think, yes, definitely it has.
Yes. Anyone else care to volunteer in answer to that? Whether you think that your bond with your ENGin student will help you to do more with Ukraine, or connect with people from outside your culture?
I would say that it certainly makes me more aware, and just I mean, if you speak to someone in Ukraine, you much better understand it, and you can understand whether a news story is really honest or true, if truthful, because you actually know somebody living there. And so that really, so I've noticed that I really pay attention, and I'm more educated in what I hear about the news, and I see she'll post, things on Instagram, and we've probably seen their love of animals and dogs. She's always
Yeah,
posting about that, which really is an international bond. Everyone loves pets and dogs and cats, so that's something that's worldwide. So that certainly is something that I've gained from the ENGin program.
certainly. I have to agree. And again, I think this is where I can maybe perhaps volunteer a few comments, but what it has done, particularly at least in my life, is it has reminded me that there are places outside of the United States that matter just as much, and that there are also good people live there. And I think sometimes in the American media sphere, we're not really we're not really inspired to look outside of the country. We're kind of led to think sometimes only of ourselves, and I think we have to be wary of that, and try to see, of course, our own country from without. And so it certainly has inspired me to do a little bit more traveling than I usually do, and to also reach out not only through ENGin, but perhaps in my daily life to local communities of people who have just arrived here in the United States. But it has certainly changed my life, and I would say for the better. I'm very appreciative of my participation here with ENGin. So uh, if that is if that is all we have, I think I think we're almost at time. So I think I should pass this off to I believe either Katerina, or if she's not available, maybe Emily.
I'm here. I'm here. Of course, I'm available. I've been
Wonderful.
to all of your inspiring answers, and I'm really touched by how much ENGin has meant to so many volunteers. I think when I started ENGin, I was focused on how much we could help students, but I think probably my favorite discovery of the last 4.5 years has been that these relationships that we're forming are really benefiting students and volunteers sort of in the same in different ways, but to the same extent. And this is what keeps me keeps me here, and this is what I'm really excited about, figuring out how we can keep building connections like this. So thank you for everyone who shared their experiences today, both on the panel and in our audience. Really really glad that we could connect live here, and hope to do more of these events in the future. If ENGin has meant a lot to you, I would love if you would consider donating to support our program. Right now we are trying to get some money to buy solar power generators for our team members who are really struggling to keep working. Almost all of the team is in Ukraine, and as you know, it's really difficult there. So this is not an expense that we planned for, and so anything you can contribute would be a huge help, because basically as much as we raise, that's how many people we're going to be able to help, and that will help us continue serving volunteers and students. I think that's it from my side. Again, thank you for coming, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.